CBS Sports HQ, where Auburn men's basketball coach Bruce Pearl is stepping down effective immediately. Pearl just completed his 11th season on the Plains, leading Auburn to the second Final Four of his tenure there. He walks away as the winningest coach in Auburn history with 246 career victories, 3 SEC regular season titles, and 2 SEC Conference Tournament championships. Stephen Pearl, Bruce's 38-year-old son, will take over as interim coach with the regular season set to begin November 3rd against Bethune-Cookman. Let's welcome in college basketball insider Matt Norlander to talk more about this. Matt, personally, I was surprised by it. I think our newsroom was surprised by it, but you're in this. How surprising is the news of Bruce Pearl's retirement today?
It's not a stunner. Obviously, it's big news. You've got one of the 10 most recognizable faces in men's college basketball deciding to step away. There had been rumors and curiosities in recent weeks and recent months if Bruce Pearl would actually make the aggressive step to say, I'm going to retire, I'm going to step away from coaching, coming off the Final Four, and do so this deep into the offseason. In doing so, Stephen Pearl, he is going to be the full-time acting head coach, I'm told by sources. And oh, by the way, Bruce Pearl, as we record this in real time, I'm also told Bruce Pearl personally, he was intending to, sometimes you can't control when the news comes out, he wanted to be the one to break this news personally and make a public announcement. As we are taping and going live here on CBS Sports HQ, that has not yet happened. It will happen soon. Bruce Pearl will have a message to the Auburn community and to college basketball as to why he's decided to do this. But you've got a coach who was able to build up an incredible program in the SEC. You know, he's the greatest coach in Auburn history. Took him to 2 Final Fours. Auburn had never made a Final Four until Pearl took them there in 2019. And then last year, the SEC had the best single-season run of any conference in the history of college basketball. Well, Auburn had one of the best players in the country in Janai Broome, was a 1 seed, made the Final Four, and had an SEC championship to account for with that as well. So it's big news. Pearl is among the most media-friendly and ready with the quote, good behind the microphone as any coach you'll find. So in that regard, it obviously is a little bit of a loss. And then I know we've got more to talk about here, Emily, but on the note of his son, Stephen, getting the job, I can speak to one particular facet of this. I sat down with Bruce Pearl about 2 years ago in his office at Auburn, and even at that point, Stephen was, 36, 35, going on 36. He's 38 now, but Bruce really did want to have the program in a place where he thought Stephen would be able to take it over, and there had been something of an understandable struggle between administration and the Pearls, because just because you're the son of a really, really good coach doesn't ensure that you will then become a really, really good coach. But at this point, in choosing to do this now and do it so close to the season, Stephen will get the job, and it won't be just interim. I'm told he will be the full-time head coach heading into next season. No interim tag attached to him.
Yeah, you mentioned that we are deep into the offseason. I know we're deep in college football right now in the NFL, but basketball season is just around the corner. So what do you make of the timing of this decision on September 22nd?
Yes. Well, there's a few things we can delve into this. One, it's not an easy decision to make. And so it can be, if it's something that was weighing on Bruce for a number of months, at a certain point, you got to say, I'm either all in or I'm not. And so took the weekend to think about it. I was told he made his final decision earlier on Monday. Like, he went to bed Sunday night, woke up and came and was at peace with it. This is what I'm going to do. There have been some rumors over whether or not Bruce Pearl would really opt to leave coaching to go into politics and potentially make a Senate run in the state of Alabama. I was told previously, now let's be clear on context here, I was told this 2-3 months ago by a source very close to Bruce that he would not be making a Senate run in the year 2025 in the state of Alabama. Now, I don't know if in the past 2 or 3 weeks something has changed in his heart to make him decide to do that. Again, as we tape, Pearl has not yet made his statement yet. We'll see if that changes. But there are going to be a lot of people that see the timing of this and say, okay, if he's going to step away from his duties in basketball, is he truly going to make a hard and quick pivot and make a Senate run? That remains to be seen. But ultimately, knowing Bruce and knowing how much he has invested in the game, how passionate he is about college basketball and about coaching, and how much he also empowered his staff, get into the quick little nitty-gritty with coaching stuff. Those who know college coaches and know how they operate, Emily, on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, Pearl was near the top of the list among head coaches that empowered their staffs with a lot more responsibility, which isn't to say that he didn't take it on as much. He did. He was the kind of coach who looked over as much tape as almost anyone you'll find at the head coaching level. But the staff collectively, in doing this and making this decision now, I think he feels very comfortable that the staff he had is ready for this change, a big change, no doubt about it. But he's not leaving them in a lurch. They are as prepared as they possibly could be heading into the preseason here. Today is actually the first day of practices in college basketball. To your timing question, Emily, I think that's another factor that played into us. Today is the first day teams can formally have true practices in the preseason, and it dovetails with Pearl's decision.
It sounds like we're still trying to figure out the why behind all of this. And like you said, he wanted to make the announcement by himself. Ultimately, in this day and age, that doesn't always happen, but we will hopefully hear a why from him. I'm curious from your standpoint. We talk about the age of his son. He's 65 years old, Bruce Pearl, and we've seen some of these early retirements happen in college basketball. I mean, Tony Bennett is somebody that comes to mind, citing the changing landscape of college basketball here in 2025. Do you have any inkling that that played a factor in his decision to step down?
I'm not going to speak for Bruce on that just yet. I want to actually hopefully talk to him over the phone or get some text in the next 24 hours, or hopefully he can reveal that. And to say it wouldn't be a factor would be naive, but I will say this. Bruce Pearl, I've talked to many head coaches in the sport in the past few weeks, the past few months, over the past couple of years, as the landscape in college athletics and college basketball has drastically changed. And Bruce Pearl has not been a coach who has frequently had private issues, at least in talking to me. It's not to say that he didn't have them, but I could give you 3 dozen other head coaches where they have voiced some real frustrations. It doesn't mean Pearl didn't also have them, but he is not one of the coaches that immediately springs to mind. Tony Bennett did. When Tony Bennett did this a year ago, it was not surprising in the least because I had talked to Tony privately about a lot of those issues. I had not had those same conversations with Bruce Pearl. So yes, they could be a factor. When Bruce Pearl decided to become a coach when he was a young man and what in the sport that he was in, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, even when he got the Auburn job in 2014 and proceeded to become the best coach in that program's history, that was a very different sport 11 years ago from where it is in 2025. It remains to be seen how much of a factor it is. If you told me it was a factor, it wouldn't be surprising whatsoever. But I'd be surprised with Bruce Pearl specifically if it was the dominant factor in him coming to this decision.
Yeah, he himself is an example of the changing landscape based on the way things ended at Tennessee versus what we're seeing in college basketball now here in 2025. Matt Norlander, thank you so much for that great perspective. I have a feeling that you'll be taping an emergency podcast soon enough. If so, you should check it out on your feed. The Eye on College Basketball. You can watch on YouTube by scanning that QR code or listen wherever you find your podcasts. We've got continuing coverage of the news that Bruce Pearl is stepping down as head coach of the Auburn Tigers. We'll have more coverage from Gary Parrish on the other side. Stick with us here on HQ. CBS Sports HQ, where Auburn men's basketball coach Bruce Pearl is stepping down effective immediately. Pearl just completed his 11th season on the Plains, leading Auburn to the second Final Four of his tenure there. He walks away as the winningest coach in Auburn history with 246 career victories. The SEC regular season tied 3 SEC regular season titles, 2 SEC conference tournament championships, and Stephen Pearl, Bruce's 38-year-old son, will take over as head coach with the regular season set to begin November 3rd against Bethune-Cookman. Let's welcome in Gary Parrish. And Gary, we just spoke with your Eye on College Basketball counterpart, Matt Norlander, and he said he wasn't totally shocked by this news. What was your reaction when you found out that Bruce Pearl was retiring today, Monday, September 22nd?
I don't know that I expected the announcement on Monday, September 22nd. I did not have this on my calendar, but broadly speaking, this had been whispered about in college basketball circles for quite some time. I would say over a matter of months, so much so that Bruce was actually asked about it recently, and clearly, with the benefit of hindsight, was playing coy. He suggested that there was nothing to all the speculation, but certainly there was. He is 65 years old, which is a perfectly normal age for an American to retire, particularly an American with millions of dollars. But in truth, this is a sport, college basketball, where men, Hall of Famers, have routinely coached into their 70s. So Bruce is getting out a little earlier than most other super successful coaches, but I think anybody who knows BP or even just follows him on social media a little bit understands that he has incredible interest outside of the sport of basketball. So he might be leaving college athletics, but I don't know that he is leaving the world of public attention.
Yeah, what is the significance of the timing as we inch closer to the start of the basketball season?
Well, it suggests, and I'll let Bruce speak for himself, whenever he decides to speak publicly, but it suggests that maybe on some level he has been twisting and turning a little bit with this. If you remember, Tony Bennett last year told us that it was an incredibly hard decision for him to walk away, and among the reasons that it took so long into the calendar for him to actually pull the trigger on it is because he was unsure and going back and forth. And I can imagine Bruce hasn't struggled with that on some level as well. This is not like he's run his program into the ground or he's on the hot seat or isn't expected to have a good team. He's coming off of a Final Four, a season in which his team was ranked #1, led by a first-team All-American, and they should be ranked and a factor in the SEC once again. But like I said, speculation had increased in recent months that BP might want to walk away from the sport to do other things. Now, other things quite clearly could be to just spend more time with his family and his grandchildren. Again, he is 65 years old, but obviously there is a Senate seat that is going to open up in the state of Alabama. There's been a lot of whispers about BP maybe being a real candidate to pursue that seat. And obviously, if you're the Auburn basketball coach, that's very difficult. But now that he's not the Auburn basketball coach, he'll be getting a lot of questions about that moving forward.
Yeah, we'll let CBS News take over for that. But as far as the basketball is concerned, with Auburn, not a whole lot changes. You still have a Coach Pearl taking care of this program. So what do we know about Stephen Pearl, the head basketball coach?
Well, Emily, I tell you, when you said Stephen Pearl, 38 years old, it made me feel a million years old because I've known Stephen since he was a player at the University of Tennessee. He's a sharp young guy, and I think we've always known this was headed this direction. I'm sure there's going to be some people speculate that among the reasons Bruce waited this long to announce his retirement is that it does put Auburn in a situation where there's no practical thing for the school to do other than just promote from within, and the obvious place to promote from within is to do it with Stephen Pearl. But I think that's less of a factor here than anything else. We have known for a while that when Bruce Pearl does give up his reign as Auburn's basketball coach, the next Auburn basketball coach is going to be Stephen Pearl, whether that came in year 2025, 26, 27, or whenever. So I don't think Bruce had to wait this deep into the calendar to ensure this happens. This was probably always going to happen. I'll tell you, you only move over one seat, Emily, but I've seen guys who I thought were incredible assistant coaches and would be great head coaches struggle in that role. I've been surprised by others. I guess that's my way of saying I've known Stephen for a while. I think he's sharp. I believe he can do this job and will do this job well. But the truth is, until somebody becomes the head coach of an SEC program, you really just do not know how they're going to handle that situation.
Yeah, and something that Matt Norlander mentioned to us is that when he's taking over, his dad, Bruce Pearl, wanted to make sure that the program was in a good position for him to come in. And I would say, coming off a Final Four appearance and being the winningest head coach in Auburn history, seems like it's in a good program. So what should we anticipate from the Tigers this season, now led by Stephen Pearl?
Well, obviously, they are losing one of the great coaches in the sport, somebody who I believe should be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame someday. But again, they're replacing him with his son, somebody who knows what a high-level, accomplished and successful program looks like. Like Stephen Pearl played a role in everything that Bruce accomplished at Tennessee. He's been playing a role in things that his father has accomplished at Auburn. So again, with people who have never had this type of job, it's always a little bit of a guessing game. But to your point, Emily, Bruce has left his son set up to succeed. They're coming off of an incredible season. That building creates an incredible home court advantage. They've got a roster that maybe doesn't look as good on paper as last season's roster looked, but it is a roster that should have them nationally relevant and back in the NCAA tournament once again. So as long as Stephen Pearl is capable of doing the job, which I believe that he is set up to do it well in year one. So that's a pretty nice gift that his father has left him. Not just an SEC job, but an SEC job with a roster that suggests you should be able to win right from the jump.
GP, is there an emergency podcast in your future?
I think what I've seen is we're trying to go at 2:15 Eastern, so we'll be jumping on here in just a second.
All right. Thank you for carving out some time for us. We appreciate it. That emergency pod is, of course, the Eye on College Basketball podcast. When they go live, you can watch them on YouTube, but as always, you can check them out wherever you find your podcasts. They will be cooking today. Gary Parrish and Matt Norlander talking about the news that Bruce Pearl has stepped down as Auburn's men's basketball head coach.